Peace be with you, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Trevor. Very grateful to have you here, and doing something a little bit different today. I wanted to go into a little bit of a creative direction with a hypothetical fragrance. So this is going to be a fragrance based upon a famous story from the ZEN tradition, and it begins with the first patriarch of ZEN, Bodhidharma, and his initiation of his first disciple, Dazuhoike, into the path of ZEN. And this is a somewhat striking story of sincerity, I think, is the major theme here. And it's not so dissimilar from the story of Abraham sacrificing his son. So getting into the fragrance, first of all, the fragrance is one that I would name Red Snow. The reason being is that when Dazuhoike went to learn Zen or become enlightened from Bodhidharma, he came and asked him to, relieve him of his suffering, and Bodhidharma told him, "I will not teach you until it rains red snow." To which Dazuhoike unsheathed his sword, chopped off his left arm, grabbed it by the wrist, and started flailing it around in the air until the snow that was falling on the mountaintop in which they were in began falling in red, and at which point Bodhidharma agreed to teach him the path of Zen. So, like I said, very kind of striking and alarming story, but it goes to show the sincerity that one needs to become a true seeker on the path of enlightenment or on the path towards God, as was the case with Abraham when God asked him to give up his son. Also, just a side note, in the Quranic narrative of that story of Abraham, when Abraham told Isaac that he was going to have to sacrifice him, Isaac went along with it and said, "Do as you are commanded, Father." So it's not, at least in that version of the story, he wasn't dragging his son kicking and screaming, but it was also an indication of Isaac's faith and sincerity towards their master. So that aside, that's the central story behind the concept of the fragrance. And so Red Snow is something that I would like to see be a little bit powdery for the snow aspect of it, a little bit metallic given the emphasis on both the sword used to cut off the arm as well as the metallic tones of the iron and the blood. And then the other two main facets beyond powdery and metallic are coniferous, just something to feel as if you're in a snowy mountaintop, as well as a stream of redness. So a few of the notes that I would have considered to encapsulate that red feeling in the fragrance would be like a port wine accord, some geranium, maybe a very jammy rose, perhaps some black currant, and maybe like pink pepper. So these would be some of the notes that I would typically associate with like a red fragrance running through the heart of an otherwise coniferous, powdery, snowy green feeling. Also perhaps maybe some juniper berry or other accords such as mountain air or ice cubes to really bring home that cold sensation, almost like the cold feeling that you get of like Eau Givree when you first spray it on from the juniper berries in that. Some other notes that also came to mind were like Hinoki wood, which is a type of Japanese cypress, maybe Lotus and bamboo as means to really drive home that theme of Japanese or Asian kind of environmental feeling, as this was something taking place technically in China at the time, but Zen really flowered into what it is today once it reached Japan. And so those are I'll put up a sort of sketch here of the note breakdown that I had conceived in my mind. Maybe like some cashmere wood as well, some Orris root or Orris butter to kind of supplement that powdery sensation, heliotrope, all to drive home the snowy sensations, and then the metallic accords and the red qualities for the blood and the sword. And a few fragrances in my collection that kind of resemble what I'm envisioning in my mind with regards to the actual scent profile. Something like Wakening woods of Scandinavia here to capture that sensation of being in a snowy mountaintop amidst a sort of foresty, snow-littered, almost like Christmas time sensation, which this mock-up here on my desktop of the Dazuhaika cutting off his arm and the red snow bottle here also kind of drives home a little bit of like a Santa Claus Christmassy time feel. As well as a fragrance like Creed's Royal Oud also has a little bit of that powdery green touch going on in here, some pink pepper that could lend itself to a red sensation. And as far as just having that vein of red, you know, these two fragrances I think are ones that I borrowed a little bit from in terms of representing some geranium and some rose going on to supplement the feeling or vibe of this being a red snow fragrance. Also, this here Prada Infusion de Iris Cedre kind of captures a little bit of a light, airy, metallic, powdery connotation that I feel would be great in terms of the overall textural composition of a fragrance like this. And then finally, the one fragrance in my collection that I feel really comes the closest to what I am envisioning for this fragrance overall is this one, Enchanted Forest from the Vagabond Prince, which sadly is really unavailable right now, but comes... This has the port wine accord in here. It's got a lot of that Enchanted Forest vibe going on. I'm not entirely sure whether or not this event took place in a forested area. I knew it took place outside of a mountain cave in which Bodhidharma was meditating at the time, but the image evokes a sensation of being in that sort of enchanted Christmassy time forest in the mountaintops, and just obviously it's a pretty profound story and something that I think would be cool to translate into a perfume. And the idea of a metallic, powdery, coniferous red fragrance also is something kind of unique. I don't think much comes close to that, at least from what I've tried, other than maybe this fragrance right here, which also features, you know, like I said, the port wine and some black currant that offers up a little bit too fruity of a connotation for what this fragrance I would imagine being like. So maybe kind of replicate what's going on here and dial back the fruitiness and maybe replace it with more of a metallic quality, and then amp up the powdery sensation to capture that idea of snowfall. And overall, those are some of the ideas that I had to translate this story into a fragrance. Also just wanted to share the story with people. I think it's a profound one and a really good marker of sincerity and what it takes to achieve one's goals in life, particularly if you're seeking enlightenment or God per se. There's also a handful of other stories in the Zen tradition about Zen masters dunking the students underneath water until they were on the verge of drowning, and then telling them, like, unless you want enlightenment as much as you want to breathe right now, you're not going to attain it. There's like another famous story of someone coming to the Buddha and saying, you say everyone can attain enlightenment, why is not everyone enlightened? And he told the questioner to take a list and go house to house and ask the people there what their top 3 desires are, and not a single person in the village said that they were seeking illumination. And so he responded to the questioner like, you see, everyone has the potential, but no one really cares to seek it out. And so, yeah, cutting off your arm and showing that, you know, the body and materiality is secondhand, literally, to striving for this illumination and the alleviation of one's own suffering, I think is a great, you know, moral to translate, especially in fragrance, which is, I think, a beautiful medium and art form to tell stories like this and convey something of merit and import to people. And, you know, this was just my attempt at a creative direction, being a creative director for a fragrance, and you know, I hope to do some more of these in the future. I've done, I think, 2 of these before already. One based on a few narrations about believers, and another one on a concept for like the Bleu de Chanel elixir. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Let me know if you'd be interested in some more creative direction videos moving forward. And as always, I really appreciate you sticking with me to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.